Hello, I'm back doing GT3 track guides again. We are here at Sebring for week 1 of season 2 2022 of GT Sprint, and also for Sebring 12. Hope you enjoy it, hope you find it useful. It's great to be back, and hopefully see you out there on the track. Cheers. Okay, so we are here in race conditions. The track's 24 degrees. It's about 7:40 in the evening, race day. We're just crossing over the line, and we are going to be heading out to the outside of the track. And just under the bridge, you'll see that the wall on the right starts to fade away. And we want to really pick up that and get tight to that wall. And then as we start to come to the end of the pit wall, you'll see that there is a bit of tarmac that has a break in it. It's got a big line in it here right ahead of us. That is my brake marker and my cue to start my turn in. And as soon as I start braking and turning in, I'm looking immediately to that inside wall. So as I start my turn in, and bearing in mind I'm really not braking particularly hard, I'm looking for the yellow line that's going to start here just at the end of the pit wall, and I want to pick up that yellow line and then follow it in tight. And at this point I'm starting to look for the cone, which is just in view on the left hand side of the screen there, poking out the top of the fencing. Now that is the apex, so that's the spot we are ultimately aiming for. I've finished braking now. I'm just about to start picking up the throttle, and you want to pick up the throttle nice and steadily. I'm already looking ahead now to the cones on the right hand side. Just after the 3 cone, we're going to start braking pretty heavily, and we're going to come down to second gear. And then as we move ahead in the brake zone, we're going to see where the tarmac changes colour, and that's when we want to start our turn in just as the curb on the left starts. And we want to get ourselves nice and tight to this inside curb, but we want to be on the throttle way before. It's really important to get an early throttle here so that you can get carry a good bit of speed round to the next sweeping left here, and just at the end of the curbing I want to start braking. And then we're very, very, very light on the brake. We only hold it for a little bit of time, and we build up the steering angle around here quite steadily, because once we hit this apex, which is this little jutty bit that's sticking out, got quite a pointy edge on the curb, that, you know, really we want to be back on the throttle and gradually building up as we unwind the wheel so we don't lose traction in the rear. There we go. So we've got a long straight now, and then we are gearing up for the slowest corner at Sebring, and I'm braking just after the 4 cones. Now, depending on what car you're driving, obviously I'm in the Audi here. I'm using quite an aggressive brake bias that's fairly to the rear, so I've got a short braking zone, but you know, it can be treacherous. So you might find that you want to brake just before. It's not a race to brake as late as possible. You can brake early and just brake lighter. And we're bringing the car all the way down to first gear. And then we want to be back on the throttle, right on that apex there. But I'm building the throttle really, really slowly just to maintain traction. And we've got another section of full power as we start to approach the second half of the track. Now here, again, you want to be braking around about the 4. I brake more like in between the 4 and the 3. Your mileage will vary here, but we want to get ourselves down to second gear, quick, smart, full threshold braking. And then what we want to really, really do, we want early throttle again. So we're looking at the curb on the right, the inside curb. And we really want to make sure we pick it up as tight as we can so we can get on the throttle really early. But we also don't want to get too wide around here. If we end up too wide on exit, we're going to run into trouble carrying speed around the flat out left turns here. So as we're coming up to the 3 cone, we want to make sure we're getting ourselves right out to the outside of the track, and we're going to brake kind of about sort of 60%. Let's see what happens. And we want to get ourselves down through the gears pretty quickly. We want to be by the outside curb. We don't necessarily want to be on it terribly. It can unbalance the car. So reasonably easy. And then before we hit the apex, we want to be back on the throttle, but we are going to build pretty easily here. So we're coming round to one of the trickiest sections. Le Mans is coming up. We want to brake on the 3 cone here and get ourselves down to 3rd. And then just before we pass the last cones, we're going to start our turn in and really start bleeding out of the brake. Aim for the inside curb. And then start building the throttle really gently. See how gently I'm coming into the throttle here. We want to stop that back end from losing itself. And we don't actually want to be fully flat out around the section anyway. So easy on the throttle. tight on the inside curb, but you notice I'm coming out of the gas there just so that we're keeping the car balanced. It's very easy to lose the car on that curb, but we do want to get the car out as wide as we can here. And also having ourselves out of 100% throttle here means the turn-in is going to be a lot easier around Le Mans curve here, which is probably one of the trickiest parts of the track. The idea is to carry as much speed as you possibly can, so you don't want to brake too hard. So actually coming into this a little bit slower is quite advantageous to not having to really lean on the brakes. The harder we lean on the brakes before turning here, the less successful or less aggressive we can actually turn the car. So I find if I'm a little bit easier on entry, then I can be a lot more aggressive on exit, and I think that's a real secret here. You can get away with braking incredibly little. So a little dink on the brakes there for a very brief period, and then we're picking up the throttle gradually so that we can maintain a pretty firm steering angle there. So less is more on the braking round there and easier on the entry for sure. So here comes sunset, the wonderful and famous sunset. I'm looking at the cones and I'm looking at the second set here, the two cones, sorry, I should say. So as we pass the two cone, we're going to start our turn in, start picking up the brakes, and maintain a very light steering angle pretty much all the way around. We're not braking particularly heavily, and at this point we want to be quite tight to the inside curb. We want to be nearly done on our braking so that we can up the steering angle and start accelerating just as we're around about the bridge, just before the bridge. Really light build up on the throttle there. It's very bumpy, grips not particularly great, so nice and steady, keep that traction, slower is faster around there. Alright guys, well look, I hope that was useful. I'm a little bit rusty on the track guide front, having a few technology issues as well. So I hope that worked out for you. If it did, please do give it a like. Please do subscribe to the channel for more of this shenanigans. Have a look in the description below for details of some Finding Speed community races that I'm running at the moment. And keep an eye on the channel for the Finding Speed GT3 League, which is currently on 2. And yeah, have a really good week of racing. And if I don't see you before, hopefully I will see you out there on the track. Cheers guys, see you later.